Hello, this is Onyx Tarot Readings, and today this podcast is going to be all about Pluto, the planet Pluto. So I have been studying Pluto for over a year at this point, and I find it very interesting, especially tied to the things that happen in our life that we can't necessarily control, that essentially happen to shift us in a different direction. So as this month goes on, I'll be doing a few more Pluto podcasts, like different topics, and I'm also going to be doing, of course, the weekly and monthly, predictions as well. So feel free to check that out. But thank you all for hitting the like button and subscribing, and thank you for listening. So here we go. So in general, everyone wants more money, more success, more love, more freedom, more happiness. But very few people want the transformation that is required to keep those things. So Pluto is not the part of your chart that gives you blessings. And if you are into astrology, you may find that, Pluto is like the planet of death and transformation, right? It's ruled by the 8th house. Pluto shakes things up, essentially. But the more that I study Pluto and also apply it to my life and also apply it to the people who I have their birth charts for, the more that it essentially shows you the gap between who you are right now and who you need to become. So Pluto represents death and rebirth, right? Is ruled by the 8th house in astrology of death and rebirth, which is ruled by Scorpio. So Pluto is also representing transformation, power, control, destruction, shadow work, healing, things that you're obsessed with, evolution, right? But it also shows the shadow, what is hidden, trauma, power struggles, emotional baggage, what must symbolically die before something else is reborn. So essentially, Pluto's goal is to heal something, to transform something, and then to empower you to kind of understand why something had to shift and change in your life. So I feel like it's a common misconception that Pluto is punishment, but it isn't. So people think that Pluto wants to destroy them, but it doesn't. So Pluto essentially wants to destroy the false identities, the limiting beliefs, the ego attachments, the illusions, the avoidance, the false security that you may think that you have. So Pluto asks us, what truth are you avoiding? So this is kind of like a very interesting thing for me, because depending on where Pluto is in your chart and what zodiac sign it is in for you guys, you may be like, okay, but what is the lesson? Why am I going through this thing? But the more that I watered it down and kind of stripped back what I was supposed to learn from the situations that I could not control that I was going through, the more that I was kind of realizing, wait, I guess I was avoiding this thing, which then once I figured that out, I literally was able to be like, okay, now I'm going to go into a different direction. So I promise I will get deeper into that as this podcast episode goes on. So it's very easy for us to stay stuck as people because transformation is freaking hard, right? If you think about working out, some people actually do enjoy working out, but most people, it's why would I enjoy working out, breaking down my muscles, sweating, challenging my cardiovascular health, all of these things, right? So it's we just want the outcome and we just want relief. We just want what we manifested or what we prayed for, what we spoke to existence, our goals to happen. So a lot of people, when they're going through death and transformation symbolically, right? Or you're losing something or something is shifting and something is changing. You want the anxiety, the pain, and the stress to just stop. But you want it to stop without something else changing, right? A lot of times when we're in situations, especially that we cannot necessarily control, it's kind of easy to get lost in the aspect of, okay, this is happening versus being able to see the actual reason why something is happening. So a lot of people think that Pluto is punishment, right? Big shifts and changes are punishment, but essentially Pluto wants to destroy the thing that literally wasn't even aligned in the first place. So whether it's a false identity, maybe you felt, oh, this is the person that I am. This is the partner that I am with this person, and this is the life that that we're going to have. And then something goes and shakes that apart. And really, it's like, it's not bad karma. It's not Pluto or the universe or whatever you believe in wanting to destroy you. It's essentially saying, hey, let's look into the situation because something about it is not right. And I'm sure that a lot of us can kind of look back at, dynamic jobs that we were in, friendships that we were in, relationships that we were in, all of these things that have happened in the past. And at this point, I'm sure that hindsight 2020, you can look forward and say, oh, thank goodness I'm not still in that situation. But again, when you're in it, right? When you're in shifts and changes, it's really hard to be in a place where you could say, okay, I see why this is happening because, again, the eighth house, Pluto, rules death and transformation. So basically, it's like, hey, the way that things were is not the way that is going to be in the future. Also, there could have been some type of limiting beliefs, right? Okay, I'm only going to be able to do this when this is over, or I'm only going to be able to do this when I make this amount of money, or something like that. And then you may see that something around your dynamic, your day-to-day, your schedule shifts, and basically you end up being able to accomplish the thing or handle the thing while something is still closing out in the first place. Another example is ego attachments. I am this because I accomplished this. I am this because I make this amount of money. I am this because I know how to choose good friends. There's things like that that may happen to kind of, again, shift you so that you are more aligned in the right direction that you're wanting to be in, or that you're praying for, or that you're manifesting. So essentially, Pluto destroys illusions and avoidance, things that you were like, okay, I'm going to put that on the back burner. I'm going to handle that later. Okay, this is like a big thing in my relationship that really needs to change. Like, this is not going to work long term, but we're doing this together and we're doing that together and we have this plan. So you might as well just kind of like stick it out, and then something comes and shifts and changes the situation. So essentially, Pluto is asking, what truth are you avoiding? So it's very easy to stay stuck in things, situations, dynamics, schedules, lifestyles, because a lot of people don't actually want transformation. You want relief. You want to feel better. You want, to accomplish the things that you're wanting to accomplish. You want to not feel anxious, or you don't want to feel the pain or the uncertainty when it comes to the changes that actually do take place in order to get you where you need to be. So Pluto asks us, are we willing to change? And then if we don't really answer or don't really change something, then it's going to change it anyway. So basically, when you're dealing with like things that are ending or things that are changing, it could be helpful to think of like the very beginning. So what happened in the first place? Like, what was this dynamic when I first started it? What was this relationship when I first started it? What was this schedule when I first started it? What was my mental, emotional, financial, health when I first started this situation, right? Also, it's asking, okay, so now that I know where I was, where am I now? And where am I trying to go, right? Am I okay with the finances that I'm making? Am I okay with the relationship? Am I okay with the home or with the place that I work or with my dynamic or with my lifestyle? Are you okay with it, right? And then really deep down, I feel like at that point, you could say you are okay with it and you want it to stay the same, or you know what? I did want this to change. I did want this to shift. So essentially, again, Pluto goes from like the very beginning, right? Of a dynamic, of a shift, of a contract, so that essentially when you are going through a shift and change, it could be helpful to say, okay, am I okay actually being in this situation? And if not, that is the beginning of, working with Plutonic energy. Also, another thing that I found with Pluto, I feel like when we're manifesting certain things and we're wanting to make, say, like a certain amount of money, then you're forced to sit and say, okay, what is my relationship with money, right? Why am I in this position? Or how can I make more? Why have I not been able to make more? So when it comes to money, I think that when you sit and look at, okay, what do I need to change? There could be an issue with self-worth. Like, okay, I am a business owner, but I want this, but I only charge, $1 for something, right? Why are you not worth more? There could be a fear problem. Oh, I really have all these skills, but I'm scared to start this on my own, or I'm scared to apply to this job, right? So essentially, your fear may be blocking you from more money. For others, there could be some type of control problem. I really want to, purchase this home, but I really don't want to let go of a certain aspect of my savings. So whatever the case may be, right? It's going to be helpful to kind of like better understand shifts and changes with having self-awareness and knowing exactly, okay, this is the situation. This is where I can say, okay, I am doing this, or I should be doing this differently, or I should be changing this, right? That is more effectively how you can work with Pluto, or again, work with changes versus saying, oh, if I just work more, then I'm going to do this. Like there's something about having the self-awareness. You can go from the very beginning and say, this is where I started, this is where I'm at now, and this is where I want to be. So this is what I need to do. I do have a theory on manifestation. I feel like Pluto becomes more activated essentially when we desire more. And it's not because Pluto's like, oh yeah, I want you to work. I want you to do this. I want you to do that. I just think that when we're like, okay, I want to accomplish this certain thing, then you're essentially like, why am I not there? What do I need to change? What do I need to do differently? And then that creates a gap. Are you going to do what you need to do in order to change to get to where you're going, right? So it's kind of interesting. The bigger the desire that you may have, the bigger the gap or the contradiction that Pluto exposes. If you're like, okay, I want a healthy relationship, but then it's like, okay, so why are you accepting? But you may be in a place where you're like, well, I'm still dating this person kind of loosely. This is not my long-term person. And this is probably not somebody I ever want to be with long-term, but I'm just with them for right now, right? So again, there's some type of gap between what you're wanting or what you're wanting to manifest and where you're actually at. And the good thing about this, right, which is why I'm like so loving, like studying Pluto for the last year, I'm just like, wait, this is actually good. So instead of saying, oh man, I wish I did this, or I wish I had that, or I wish I could manifest this, it's saying like, hey, these are the things that I need to change in order to get there. It's literally like giving you the blueprint of what you need to do to get to where you need to be. So on the flip side, there are definitely some people that never seem to change, right? I'm sure we all know people in certain aspects and dynamics where they're like living the same life for decade after decade after decade. And it's not about like them being happy or unhappy. It's just about them being comfortable. And growth creates uncertainty, right? When you're wanting to accomplish a big thing, when you're wanting to travel, when you're wanting to move, when you're wanting to invest in something or to make more money in the future, that's uncertain, right? Because now you have to shift and change and apply for this and get this ready and see that this works out. And it's like a lot of times Pluto becomes active when we genuinely want that expansion, when we're ready for something more, when we're writing it down, when we're like, listen, I'm doing this in order to get to here, in order to get to here. But when we're settling and we're like, okay, I'm just comfortable. Okay, I don't want to, it's not that I don't want to thrive for more. I'm just going to like wait until this period of time and then I'll get it done, that kind of thing. So I do feel that some people may have, I don't want to say settled, but some people may be comfortable with the life that they're in because they used to be in the period of time where they were, rising up a ladder, or they were making more money, or they were more willing to try different things and implement different things. But then they got to a point where they're like, well, I have enough. I'm good. Because it is very comfortable and it's very certain. And I know that for at least the rest of the year and then the next 3 years and the next 5 years, I'm not going to have to really like push myself to do anything super crazy because I am okay with controlling the aspect of my life that I'm in right now. And again, that is okay. It just seems to me that when I was studying, it was like a lot of shifts and changes happen when you're sitting and you're like, you know what? I really want to do this. And you start to apply for things and you're starting to put effort into it. And then you're like faced, right, with the difference of, okay, this is where I am now and this is where I need to be. And then again, it's like, how long am I going to have to do this for? Is it going to actually work out? Am I going to be wasting my time? Are the sacrifices that I'm going to be making with my time and my energy and my money going to actually pay off, right? Versus just being like, okay, I'll just stay in this same dynamic, the same situation, the same schedule for the next 3 years, and then I'll figure out something later. So I feel like it's kind of like easier to see when you kind of strip away, the comfortability of a lot of people's lives. You can kind of, again, utilize that energy to better manifest something that you're wanting, or to, pray for it or work forward towards it and actually know exactly what direction you need to go. So as mentioned earlier, Pluto is about power, right? And a lot of times people are like, whew, I went through this situation, but now I have more money. Now I have this and now I have that. And it's like, usually if you kind of like strip it down, the effects of Pluto, you gain more power, right? Sure, you could get a promotion. Sure, you can get a pay raise. Sure, you can be in a successful relationship, right? But the first reward, and again, if you strip that all down, is power over yourself. And that's the thing that a lot of us who are affected by changes and shifts that we cannot control, that's the thing that we feel like we've lost. Like, I don't have control over this. I don't have control over that. I've lost power. No one's listening to me. This isn't being successful. This isn't getting where I need to get because this roadblock is in the way. But essentially, Pluto's reward is power. So essentially, regardless of, your example or whatever you're really trying to focus on, you can always usually kind of strip it all the way down and say, what does need to change? Who am I now and who am I going to be? So that you guys can kind of figure out, okay, if I am who I'm going to be, then I would be doing this instead of this. So again, when there's shifts and changes, again, I kind of was like sitting and studying and I'm like, how can you speed this up, right? Because I feel like we can look hindsight 2020 and we could say, dang it, I wish that I didn't spend a month, 2 months, a year, 10 years just kind of stagnant or kind of like overly processing the situation. And if I knew then what I knew now, I would have been able to utilize the situation to move forward faster. So I feel that kind of like understanding what you need to focus on when things are shifting and changing could be super helpful. Also, Pluto doesn't always take things, right? It doesn't always destroy things, right? It essentially is showing what was already unstable. So again, if you're in a relationship or in a marriage or something like that, and then it's like, what the heck is going on with this person? That was already unstable. That person was already unstable. This dynamic was already unstable, right? And Pluto is essentially shining a light on what made it unstable. And then you're forced to decide, do I want to repair it? Do I want to fix it? Or do I want to let it go and walk away? So again, it's not always about removing things. Pluto was more so saying, hey, look, this is a situation. What are you going to do to change it? Or what are you going to do to leave it? Or what are you going to do to make it work for you? So it really kind of shifted my perspective as far as like things that happen and things that you're like, dang it, I can't believe this is happening to me. But again, once you water it all down and strip it all down, it's really shining the light on what you really need to see. In one of the readings that I did last week, I was talking about basically the dynamic of going through a situation and feeling like I need this resolved before I can be okay. So a lot of times if that's happening, then you're like, oh, I'll put that on the back burner. Oh, I'll do that later. Oh, I'll do this later. Oh, I'll think about that later. I'm going to focus on what the heck is happening right now. But all the other stuff, I'm just going to wait until this is closed out. I'm going to wait until I have some type of resolve with this. But with that, you end up kind of like, again, getting back to the comfort zone. I'm going to do this because I'm waiting for this. I'm waiting for this thing to balance out. I'm waiting for this thing to close out. I'm waiting for the next step. However, Pluto and the Pluto lesson for me was this situation it exists, it's real, but I'm still going to build my life and move forward regardless of how it plays out. So again, even though the situation did not directly change, I regained some type of power over my circumstances and my day-to-day, that kind of thing, which then eventually fixed the situation anyway. You know what I'm saying? So it's like a lot of times things shift and change, and timing is definitely very interesting. But again, I always say, look back at a situation maybe 5 years ago, 10 years ago that you thought was like the worst case scenario, and look how your life is now and see the silver linings in it, because essentially you're going to be able to look at future situations or future things that may happen that you may say, oh crap, like can't believe this is happening. But it's actually happening to lead you to the next step of either where you're manifesting or praying for or working forward towards, or it's allowing you time, energy, effort, insight to repair something that you actually do have control over. And also the other cherry on top is now being more focused, working towards your finances, not putting important things on the back burner. You basically still have your power of your life in your day to day, despite a situation that you weren't going to necessarily be able to control anyway. But the good thing is you're in a position where now you have more stability to control it. Now you have a more grounded mindset in order to handle a situation, or to basically be able to see, what do I want to do in this situation? What do I want to change? So again, Pluto is about power and essentially empowering yourself and removing the blockages, or at least showing you where the blockages are so that you can decide how you want to jump over them. Another thing about Pluto, and again, things happening that are shifting and changing and feel like tower moments where you don't have control over certain things. Pluto is essentially asking you, what is this situation forcing you to become, right? Not how can I get my schedule back to normal? How can I feel normal again? How can I do this? How can I do that? That kind of thing. It's saying, what is the situation forcing me to become? Is it forcing me to advocate in a different way? Is it forcing me to be more confident? Is it forcing me to set more boundaries with people? Is it forcing me to get out of certain friendships or get out of certain groups? Is it forcing me to start my own thing? Is it forcing me to travel? You know what I'm saying? So kind of see what Pluto is forcing you to become, what tools that you're going to be gaining, what tools that you may not have that you will have. You know what I'm saying? So like that question is going to help you if you're going through, shifts and changes. It's going to help you kind of like take yourself out of, okay, I need to get this back to normal. I'm going to put this on the back burner, that on the back burner. It's going to help you be in a space where it's like, okay, again, how can I put the power back in my own hands? And what can I do to get from point A to point B of the situation? So again, if you're going through situations where they're shifting, there's power balance dynamics, there's things that are changing, things that are ending, things that are shifting for you guys. I feel like there is a faster way or more efficient way to kind of talk yourself through things that you're going through, depending on what that is, via Pluto. So what are you afraid of losing in the situation? If you lost it, who would you be? What would your life look like? Are you fighting reality, or are you solving the problem, right? Am I fighting to keep my day-to-day the same, or my consistency the same, or my lifestyle the same, or this the same? Or am I actually fighting to solve the problem? Am I actually making steps to solve the problem? What identity is dying symbolically? So am I this, or am I that, or am I in this profession, or am I like, what role is closing out with this now changing? What thing in my schedule or my day-to-day or my identity and what I feel makes me me is changing because of this shift? And lastly, again, who am I becoming with the new tools, with the new skills, with the new, found power that I'm taking back in a situation? Who am I becoming in the future? So the biggest thing about Pluto that I learned is that you're able to kind of get through certain things faster in a more intentional, efficient way when you stop arguing with reality. And it's not because your life magically becomes easier, but it's because your energy shifts from resistance into action. Again, what do I need to change? What do I need to do? Who am I becoming? So as we're finding ourselves at the very end of this podcast, I actually wanted to share my notes for a lot of the Pluto placement. So of course, if you know your astrology chart and your birth chart and where your Pluto actually is, I'm going to share my notes here to what that sign could mean. So I'm going to start with Virgo, and then I'm going to go to Libra, Scorpio, Sagittarius, and then Capricorn, actually, for I think Gen Alpha. So if your Pluto is in Virgo, you could want mastery, right? Virgos are perfectionists. You could have some type of self-criticism, and you could be wanting to control certain aspects of things that shift and change in your life. But getting things done beats them being perfect, if that makes sense. So again, when things shift and change, you may kind of overthink. You may say, oh, this isn't right. This isn't right. But basically, Pluto and Virgo is essentially just asking you how you want to get something done, right? Not waiting until the last minute or waiting until things shift and change in order for you to feel like, oh, okay, now I can handle it. It's just really more so about execution and kind of trusting yourself that you're efficient and competent enough to get things done. Because again, there may be things that are kind of lingering on, or this is going on, that's going on in the background, that needs to be repaired, you need to be doing this. But again, instead of having all those tabs, getting things done could be helpful with that placement. For Pluto in Libra, I actually know quite a few people with Pluto in Virgo and Pluto in Libra, and actually a lot of these signs, but a lot of my notes are from a lot of people I know with Pluto and Libra. So if you have Pluto and Libra, you could essentially want love, want peace, want balance, and want fairness, right? But when Pluto is here and things shift and change, you could have relationship imbalances. You could be in a place where you're people pleasing, trying to be nice to certain people, and really it's like costing you something. You could be wanting to be approved of, like in a community or in a job or in a group, or things like that. You could also have certain status symbols kind of shift and change as well. So Pluto and Libra essentially ask you, when things are shifting in your life and you feel like what the heck is going on, to not abandon yourself, right? So you're supposed to have healthy relationships. You're supposed to have healthy friendships and balanced friendships, and not feeling like you're overly investing in a person, place, or thing. You're also meant to be around or be connected to people that actually do value you as well. I feel like you may be seeing, you may see certain friendships, partnerships, dynamic jobs, whatever, be imbalanced, but you may kind of look back at it and say, you know what, I wasn't even valued here anyway. So a lot of Pluto and Libras are rewarded with healthy relationships, healthy dynamics, healthy, friendships, and a lot of really healthy self-respect. It's kind of like asking yourself, why would I accept this? Why would I accept this situation? Is this okay for me, right? Am I in a place where I'm in this contract or in this job or in this home or in this relationship just to make other people happy, or just to, paint a pretty picture, that kind of thing. So when there are shifts and changes, I do feel like actually seeing, okay, am I okay in this dynamic? Am I appreciated? Is this fair? Is the effort that I'm putting out getting put back into me? And is this relationship or dynamic or partnership or contract or situation healthy for me? Moving forward to Pluto and Scorpio. If you have Pluto and Scorpio, you could definitely want intimacy, loyalty, power, but Pluto could definitely affect you in shifts and changes that affect your control. You could be very fearful of being betrayed by certain people. You could also have some type of relationship ending or financial loss, or again, trust issues. There's certain things that you're wanting, right? That scorpionic energy where you're like, okay, I trust this person, I trust this job, I trust this dynamic, but you may be essentially being in a space where things are shifting and changing, where you may want to control certain dynamics and certain people and certain friendships and certain jobs and all of these things, controlling certain things versus trusting yourself. So again, you may find that, okay, I'm close with this person, but I do know that, I'm going to be upset if they do this or if they say this, right? Which is like, that makes sense, right? But are you overly making sure that this person doesn't do this or do that or say this or wear this, or, there's certain things with certain dynamics or certain partnerships or certain friendships where you're like, oh, I have this closeness, but you're only going to be close to me if you're doing this or that or this and that. But really, if you trust yourself, right, and you trust the people around you and you trust your discernment, which again, Scorpio placements have great discernment, then you should trust yourself more than having to create these hidden finish lines. Like, okay, I trust you a little bit. Okay. But if you do this, I'm going to pull it back. There's something about being able to trust the people around you that you do genuinely trust, that are loyal to you, that have been loyal to you, versus feeling like, oh, I got to hold it tighter. I got to hold it closer. Or I think this person's going to do this to me, that kind of thing. But essentially your power with this placement comes from trusting your own discernment and not feeling like you have to do certain things to control certain things or certain dynamics in order to protect that stability that you have in a friendship or relationship or business partnership. All right, so next we have Pluto and Sagittarius. So Pluto and Sagittarius essentially want freedom, they want truth, they want expansion, right? But when Pluto shifts and changes things that you're, going through, the way that things are going in your life, you could have escapism, right? Like you're like, oh, I need to get out of here very, very fast. You could have limiting beliefs. I can only do this much, or this can't go forward until this is closed out, right? You could also get into like some type of like belief system where you're like, okay, well, this is what I believe, so this is who I am, and I'm never going to change my opinion, that kind of thing. So Pluto could definitely affect your travel, like your movement, where you live, anything that would make you feel like you want to escape it. It could also kind of keep you stuck in a certain place for a little while. If we're talking Sagittarius, it could rule legal matters and things that you feel like you can't necessarily get out of at the timing that you're wanting to get out of them. It could also rule education challenges. I want to do this. I want to go to school. I want to finish school, but this came up first. And also it could affect your spiritual belief as well. Like, oh my gosh, I went through my whole life thinking this and this and this about this situation, but now it's completely different. So who am I? What do I believe? That kind of thing. So the important thing with this placement is to stay teachable, being able to be in a space where you're like, okay, this is happening, but what am I actually learning from the situation? Because as you go through shifts and changes, you're going to, with this placement, gain wisdom and expansion. So you're going to get that expansion that you wanted, right? But what are you learning right now before you get to that expansion? If there's something you really want to do and you feel like it's super restricted, why is it restricted, right? Are there certain things you need to close out beforehand? Are there certain financial things you need to learn beforehand? So again, I do feel with this placement that it could be very helpful to just see what you're actually going to be learning so that you can have those certain tools for the things that you're wanting to actually manifest and the things that you're actually wanting to experience. And last but not least, Pluto in Capricorn, which again is like Gen Alpha. But if you have Pluto in Capricorn, because who knows who's going to listen to this in the future, you could want success, status, achievement, and Pluto could definitely attack your career identity. You could basically be overworking. You could be doing things for external validation. And you're like, dang, I didn't even really want to do this, but I did it because everyone else wanted me to do it. So essentially, if you have Pluto in Capricorn, your lesson is to understand that achievement does not equal your self-worth. What equals your self-worth is who you are as a person, okay? Not the things that you are doing and accomplishing and your status and how people see you and all of these things. You are able to build the future. You are able to build legacy. You are able to build success because of who you are, okay? That's going to be important for that placement. And last but not least, we are in Pluto and Aquarius right now. So for a very long time. So I will say collectively as a people, Pluto and Aquarius wants impact and wants change, right? There's something that you may want to do, right? Especially for the future or even as the next like 10 years go by. Like there's something that you're wanting to change within a group, within a system, within a city, within a country, right? There's something you want to change. There's some type of impact within your career or within your family that you're wanting to change, or within groups or social media. There's something that you guys may be wanting to do. However, the more that we are emotionally detached, the more that we're isolated from people, from groups, the more that we think, oh, I already know this, so I don't need your help. I don't need to collab with you. That kind of thing is the further behind that we get from that impact and change. So essentially, Pluto and Aquarius could definitely allow us to connect more with people, and that is going to lead us to more influence and more purpose with our day-to-day. But again, I feel like the more separate we are in groups and communities and cities and dynamics and jobs, the longer that it's going to take for everyone to actually connect and share like, oh, you do this, so I do that kind of thing. So with Pluto and Aquarius, areas you could definitely see over time that people are definitely more community focused. People value other people's opinions a lot more. And there could be also a lot of people that start singular with something, but start to collab and collaborate and partner with other people and get further and get to a place of influence in the future. So closing this out, okay, Pluto does not usually take things because you do not deserve them. Pluto takes things because you've attached your identity to them. And again, if a relationship has failed in the past and you're like now, hindsight 2020, you're like, ooh, thank goodness I'm not connected to that person, right? Essentially, that person, that dynamic had certain things going on that were not necessarily meant to be with you in the future. Also, if it's like certain things or certain assets or certain dynamics, oh, I have this for this amount of time and this is who I am and this is the award that I have, and then it's taken or that it is shifted or it's altered, your identity could have been so morphed with this person that you were with this thing or with this dynamic, and the thing that you're actually trying to manifest and actually trying to do is different than your current identity. Again, think from this is who I am now, but this is who I will be. And what do I need to do or to shift or to change in order to get to that place? So the moment that you are learning who you are without the thing that you may be clinging to or the dynamic that you may be clinging to, you become powerful enough to build something stronger, something bigger, and something more aligned with you. Things and dynamics that feel like destruction are often the beginning of your freedom. So feel free to share your thoughts below. I will be doing more Pluto podcast this month, and of course the other podcasts as far as the end of June will be posted as well. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for hitting the like button, subscribing, and thank you all so much for listening.